Hey Matt,
Yeah?
what do you have in common with Torchlight 3?
I don't know.
You both elicit mostly negative reactions from people.
Hey, what the fuck? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Return Policy, your source for all things in co-op gaming. Today, we're going to be talking about Torchlight 3, Extra Game's first attempt at a dungeon crawling RPG.
If you guys and gals want to remain up to date on everything related to co-op games, then be sure to like, subscribe, and touch the bell at your preferred intensity. So you were excited for this game, right?
Yeah, I kind of just saw that it randomly appeared on Steam for me one day, and I was an avid player of Torchlight 2. I probably put around 125 hours into it back in the day. So, I mean, I haven't touched it in a few years. Torchlight 2 came out way back in like 2012, I think. So it's been a while since I've looked at it, but the time that I did spend with it, it was quite enjoyable. I mean, it wasn't exactly the perfect game by any stretch, but it still had a good gameplay loop. It was fun, which is what, in my opinion, most dungeon crawlers are supposed to be.
Those original games had some pretty big names behind them, right?
Yeah, so Torchlight 2 released way back in 2012, and it was developed by Runic Games, which was a lot of the old Diablo 2 team. So when they were kind of done with that project, they're like, hey, we're going to do our own thing instead of sticking with Blizzard. So they went and kind of made their own little publishing, or not publishing team, but development team, and they put out Torchlight 2, and you could really feel the resemblance and the similarities between Diablo 2 and Torchlight 2 because a lot of the core gameplay mechanics that you experienced in Diablo 2 were really present for the most part in Torchlight 2. Like the pacing was a little different, it felt maybe a little bit slower, and obviously the art style is drastically different. It's not, all blood, gore, and hell in Torchlight 2, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same game. And the developers for Torchlight 3 are apparently from the team that worked on Torchlight 1 and Diablo 1, which I'll admit I never really played Torchlight 1. I did play Diablo 1, but Diablo 1 I think came out in like 1994. I'm not entirely sure. Diablo 2 came out in 97, so Diablo 1, I would have been like 6 years old when that came out. So I played it, but I don't really have any credibility when it comes to like recanting what I actually did in Diablo 1.
Your experience receiving this new game from a series that you enjoy, and then we actually played it. What was that like?
Well, this game came out of nowhere like a 13-year-old lighting a bag of dog shit on your porch at 3 in the morning.
Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
And it was not an enjoyable experience at all. And I hate just like shitting on things because especially things that are early access, I always like to give them a fair chance. But I don't know, like the core game just, it doesn't feel there. And, like we talked about Gunfire Reborn last week, which is another early access title, which you guys can check that video out up here. But that's early access, but the core game there is fun. And even though there's not a whole lot there, there's still enough where you want to go back and you want to continue to go and play that. And Torchlight 3 for us, I think we made it about 40 minutes and it wasn't good, man. It wasn't good. It felt like a chore. When I'm playing games, I don't want it to feel like a chore.
Yeah, when you brought it up to me, I was like, oh, it should be fun enough.
So I know like part of the problem for this was like the initial price point. Like I was trying to convince you to be like, hey, it's only $30. Come try this game with me.
And I was like, we better not go over the 2-hour time limit so I can return this shit.
Yeah, that was one of those where I definitely felt like I knew I was going to return it almost immediately.
When we first started playing it, the character selection was all right. It still looked promising, but when we actually got into the gameplay, it was like I could barely keep my eyes open. It was so boring.
Yeah, I think that was like when we were in character selection, we were actually fighting over like the character. Like we both wanted to play the Forged. I'm like, oh, dude, the robot guy looks so cool. Like that's just a really neat, class type that I haven't seen. And eventually we came to our agreement and you play the robot and I was like, fine, I'll play the railer and I'll go rail your mom. And then we ended up started playing, and after you pick your character and you pick your pet, that is pretty much where the fun ends. I was like, oh great, I get to like pick a dog. Who doesn't like having a dog as a trusty companion on your adventures?
Or my llama, Miguel.
Yes, Miguel. So one of the things that was different between Torchlight 3 and Torchlight 2 on the character selection screen is like the amount of pets that you could actually pick and choose from. So in 2, they give you like a whole bunch of options. I think there's like 6 in total. You've got like a ferret, you've got like a weird little gremlin looking dude, you've got dinosaurs, you got dogs, you got cats, you got all kinds of things. And then you get into Torchlight 3 and it's like, all right, you have a llama, you have a dog, and what was the other thing that we didn't pick?
The owl, I believe.
The owl, ah, yes, the hedgewig, the Harry Potter reference that we just slapped in there for no reason. But yeah, that was pretty much like the differences between like the character creation screen.
We did notice later on that some more pets might have been like unlockable. Basically, I think I found a cat out in the world.
Yeah, there were pet drops. I'm not sure. Like I understand the relevance of that, just because like your pets are doing the same thing. Like like their attack is irrelevant. The amount of stuff that they carry is, I'm pretty sure, a constant. Like I don't remember when you changed your pet that it actually increased anything for you as far as how much you could like pack mule in it and things like that.
I think when the cat showed up, it was like some sort of bonus increase to your movement speed if you equipped it or something like that.
So pets are kind of like stat sticks in that sense then. So maybe some attributes. Okay. But that's kind of lame in my opinion. Just like let me have a pet raptor and let me put a scarf on it. Like I'll pay you $5 for that.
$5 a month.
I was like, I don't want a cat, I want my llama. I don't care what the
right.
stat boost is. The Forged was my class, just a little robot guy with a gun in his chest. I thought I don't know, I like robots. I thought it would be a blast to play it. So the chest gun was good, but everything else, like my secondary attack, which I could either equip like a club or a one-handed pistol or something, that felt like it did absolutely nothing. And the way the chest gun operates is like it would overheat. And there were skills that once it overheated, you could do like a blast to release the heat and keep firing. That heat fart that comes out of him does almost nothing. It had like maybe like less than a second stun and did like no damage. I don't know, it just didn't feel very good. All I did was just sit there and shoot my gun until it overheated, fart, and then move on. So I don't know.
Time to crop dust out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of felt the same way about the Railer too. Like initially I was, again, we kind of talked about this, but I was really excited. I'm like, oh, this is a 40-year-old man that loves model trains, and this is a character class. I'm really excited to see where they go with this. And then you get into actually playing, and your ability is you just summon a little train, and it just automatically follows you around. And it has a gun on the front, and you can mod your train with a bunch of different passive things, like you get a mortar turret and like a shield turret and things like that. But they're all just passive, which makes for super boring gameplay because you're just sitting there, left click, left click, left click. All the while the train is on top of this super buggy. It goes like off the track. It does its own thing. It just kind of like sits there and has a stroke on the middle of the rails. And it just wasn't fun. It was literally a crazy train and it did absolutely nothing. It wasn't enjoyable at all. I just felt like I have this train following me. It felt like it was stalking me around the map, and I just wanted to get rid of it because it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, some of this stuff is sort of entertaining visually, but like actually playing it is just boring.
And I think a big part of that was stuff that you started mentioning. Like there's absolutely no balance whatsoever between like the normal trash mobs and then the elite mobs. So you are just flying through the normal trash mobs. You go up, you click on them, they explode, whatever. And then all of a sudden you run into those elite mobs And we weren't even playing on the hardest difficulty. We were actually one step below the hardest difficulty. And the scaling just feels so out of this world. And it's just terrible. You encounter an elite and it just brings the game to a grinding halt.
We went through the footage and it took almost a full minute to kill one of those elite mobs.
I saw it done with the blunt axe once. Took all day. Just hacking and hacking and hacking and hacking.
We get it, man!
And one of them was bugged out and not even moving. So we were just sitting there holding left click until it died. And you said you went back to Torchlight 2 and checked out what the balance was like there.
Yeah, I went back just because I hadn't played in a while, and I was like, I don't remember Torchlight 2 feeling this sluggish. And I started a new character. First elite that I encountered died in 7 seconds, which felt reasonable. I was having to pay attention to my own health. I was having to dodge abilities, making sure that I didn't get hit, because on the hardest difficulty in Torchlight 2, that's how you get punished. You don't get punished by being forced to sit there and just smack something with a hammer for a straight minute. You get punished by, oh, hey, I didn't dodge this ability. I lose all of my health and I die. And then you start back at the beginning of the zone or back in town. But yeah, that was just, for me, just such a huge night and day difference. Like a minute of just punching 3 mobs until they die is just unacceptable. It's not fun. Nobody enjoys doing that, especially early on when you don't really have any key abilities that make your class feel other than like you're left clicking. It really just, I would have had more fun if it was an auto battler. Like if I just put my mouse and keyboard down, I was like, all right, little 40-year-old dude, go build your trains and go punch gremlins.
May I be of service to you, madam?
Yes, you may. I want to buy an electric train outfit. Very fancy and very elaborate. It's for a birthday.
Oh, I'm sure we can find something nice. May I ask how old is the boy?
41. He'll be 42 tomorrow.
From my perspective, too, there wasn't really a lot going on with character building.
There really wasn't a whole lot going on with that as far as comparing even, again, like Torchlight 2 and 3. Torchlight 2, you have your attribute points that you can develop your character with. If you want to do more damage or build a glass cannon, you can just like pump all your stats into strength. If you want to play the role of a tank, if you're planning on taking those tankier skills, you can pump all of your stats into vitality and health if you want to. In Torchlight 3, for whatever reason, they've just completely decided, hey, we're not going to do anything with attributes anymore. They're just going to be a background thing, which Diablo 3 did, and it worked for them. But for some reason here, it just kind of feels, it just feels weird. It's like they got lazy. They didn't want to do anything with it. So they're like, you know what, we're not going to try to bounce around attributes. We're just going to rip that stuff out altogether. And then from like the skill tree perspective, man, I have never seen such a pitiful skill tree in my life. So every class has 2 different options. I know for the railer, I have one that basically lets me be more defensive, or I have one that lets me buff up my train, which is kind of what I started putting points into, because again, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to have the best train set. I'm going to put some connects to shame. And there's not a lot of variety. I mean, you really go through and it's like, all right, from level 1 to 5, you can put your points into this talent. And then, between level 5 and 10, you've got 2 choices this time. So you can kind of divvy those points up. And it kind of just repeats that way for like every 5 to 10 levels. And it like, there's people that love to play ARPGs and dungeon crawlers, they love to min-max their characters. So with that limited amount of builds, there's going to be like one build that just completely destroys everything. And it's just not going to promote like healthy gameplay, because you're going to be like, all right, I'm going to do this one thing that works because I don't have a whole lot of options at my disposal. And it just makes the gameplay super stale. And with the skill sphere in like Path of Exile, like if you compare Torchlight 3 to that, it's actually insane. You have this massive sphere in PoE and you can come up with basically an unlimited amount of build paths for any of your characters. So the way it works is you basically will start on your node for your class, but you can go into any of the other nodes for any of the other classes. So you start getting attributes for the Templar, and you know, depending on what class you are, you can really come up with some super creative things. And it, again, you see different builds every single season just because the way that the skill sphere works on PoE. And in Torchlight 3, you're never going to have that diversity. It's always going to be, hey, this gives me the most DPS increase or the most defensive properties. So these are going to be the best of the other 3 options that the game has given me. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, I don't really remember how Diablo 3 did it, but I know that one of the reasons that kept me into it was that the loot itself was desirable and had a lot of attributes connected to that. So that added a lot of variety. Whereas in this, the loot,
you don't really notice when you equip something new. The stat choices that you're getting, it's like health regen, you know, fire resist, things like that. Like those basic bitch stats that I don't really care about. They're just there in the background as just a generic stat check to kind of help like progress you. You don't really feel like you have build options. You know, if you look at like Path of Exile, you've got so many options. There's stats out the wazoo. Everything has different socket types on it with like the links on it, determining the type of skills you can put into those pieces of armor. There is so much going on for that. And that's a free-to-play title, by the way, not $30. So to have that much more variety is actually insane. And to feel like when you get like those legendary pieces of armor, like, oh, hey, now I can try this build out because I can pair like the synergies with this piece of equipment, with this piece of equipment. I'm not saying that that's not there in the end game. It very well may be, and it probably is. But the stuff that you get in the early game, just it's like, all right, it's green. My thing's not green. I'm going to put it on. I don't have anything in that slot. I'm going to put it on. Oh, hey, this is a blue. Oh, it doesn't really do anything different, but it does like 0.8 more DPS, which means I'm going to take 58 seconds to kill an elite instead of 60 seconds. Like,
exactly, yeah. So I kind of want to talk about the big elephant in the room. Is there's rumors, and I don't know if they're confirmed, but this was originally meant to be a at least free to play, maybe a mobile title, and at some point they pivoted.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Perfect World, but anybody that's been on the internet knows Perfect World sucks giant donkey dong because they are notorious for basically just trying to leech the maximum amount of money out of players.
Give me the money! Give me the money!
Which is just super scummy. And
Gotcha game company.
Yeah, more or less. So I feel like a lot of the things that we've kind of talked about really felt like they could have been in a mobile title. Like, you know, everybody loves collecting pets and stuff. For some reason, when you do it in a mobile game, people eat that shit up. And I don't understand it. And it bothers me. And it's literally a plague to gaming. But if you put 50 different colored cats in there, and if it has like a 0.01% drop rate and you can't get it, but then it goes on sale for $3, people are going to be like throwing singles like it's a strip club trying to get that damn orange cat for some reason. And I hate that. And even like the res mechanic too. Like if you look at Torchlight 2 versus Torchlight 3, when you die in Torchlight 2, you can start at town or you can pay like a really small amount of gold to respawn right where you died. And in Torchlight 3, it was so much. Like we were in like the second area, and if you want to respawn right where you start, it was 300 gold, which was almost all of our gold at that point.
It was over
for like
all
10
of
minutes.
my gold, yeah.
Yeah, it was actually insane. So you could pay like 300 to spawn where you died, or like 150 to spawn at the start of the room, or you had to go all the way back to town and walk. And I just don't know why that was so ridiculously high. Like either they wanted to create like a false sense of longevity in the game by making it so you were spending money so you couldn't spend more money to gamble in the shop and get better loot.
Yeah, I was thinking that it was for that mobile transaction, like pay 330 gems that require real money to res here, and they just like took that out and then put an unreasonably high gold amount instead.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't think about that, but that would have been like a really good opportunity for your premium currency 50 gem type of bullshit that you see with Bejeweled and all that other nonsense.
Yeah. Let's go into the final verdict.
It's the final verdict.
New segment. Let's go.
we're gonna get a copyright strike for that.
All right. So I think here we want to talk about if we would recommend and if it is worth your money.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Without any further ado, do not buy this game.
Stop. Do not abort. Go. Torchlight 2 is actually on sale right now. I think pick it up for $5. If you Path of Exile, it's been free since 2012. Go play that.
Get Diablo on your Switch or something. I don't know. Play it with your girlfriend or boyfriend.
Or play with yourself.
Play with yourself.
But I mean, for me, like, I just don't know what their plan is with this, because if you look at all of the dungeon crawlers coming out in the future, Path of Exile 2 is going to be coming out. Their free-to-play model worked great for them. I can't imagine they're going to try to change it and do anything else. Diablo 4, everybody's on the hype train for that, even though it's probably not going to come out until like 2025 would be my guess, because Blizzard takes their dear sweet time doing anything.
Aren't they making a Diablo mobile game too or something?
Oh, dude, do you guys not have phones? Yeah, Diablo Immortal, I think that's dropping soon. I would honestly, go play Diablo Immortal before you pick up Torchlight 3. You've actually made me angry now. Bringing up Diablo Immortal. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to acknowledge its existence. But yeah, I don't know how they're going to compete with that, because right now what they have is definitely not going to do that. Even Wolcen, that came out a few months ago that ended up pissing off 90% of its player base, was still a fun game, but I think that still launched at like $30. But what you got with that actually felt like a full complete game with some really groundbreaking bugs. This just feels like, all right, dev team, let's put something together over the course of 3 weeks and ship it out and see what happens. And what happened is you got overwhelmingly negative on Steam for like 3 days. So, yep.
It's like that episode of Community where the dean's going around telling everybody that that Green Day's here, and then it's some Scottish band with bagpipes and kilts. It's just so disappointing. Thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of Return Policy. That's going to do it for us today. Let us know your thoughts on Torchlight 3 in the comment section below. As for us,
we already returned this shit.